They didn't, in essence, acquire their way into the business like you all did. And so I think it's important that that distinction is always sort of top of mind. And in some cases, Deb, you mentioned, like, I mean, if you have multiple DAs, each time a new one is added, as you're growing and scaling, that culture that someone else is coming into is going to be really defined. And it's going to be another opportunity for you to really analyze your culture to ensure that the newest member into it is being indoctrinated into the most positive element of it as you can possibly provide. Right. So, these are just sort of things to be mindful of. Sometimes they're easy to get away from because you're running and gunning every day. But especially now, since we're talking about the addition of DAs here, just, as the owners, make sure you have that big picture awareness that you have a culture now and you have to safeguard it and nurture it every day.
And that's a really good point. Because and one other thing, and it may be sort of unsolicited comment, I guess, but yeah, when you have somebody leave and then you add a new person, that is an opportunity to sort of make a little shift in the culture. So when somebody leaves, that means that they weren't a good fit for the culture. So maybe they have some residual baggage or something of the culture that I need to like repair, or not that the whole thing goes downhill, just because of one, but that's a really good point, that when the new person comes in, yeah, you still have to be really mindful and get them into the culture that you want.
Precisely right. And
Well
take
said.
advantage of the opportunity of having new people that are inheriting your established culture, but have the opportunity to bring, positivity and add elements within it. Right. That's also important. You chose to hire people for a reason, right? You interviewed them, you identified traits that you think were viable and important. And as they're going to be assimilating into your established culture, also be mindful to try to extract out of them things that can be infused into it. Right? New perspectives, different skill sets, different ways of thinking. Sometimes that's a really positive thing. It can certainly go the other way as well. I mean, you end up having culture war to some degree, but I'd say more often than not, early on, you have an opportunity to add to your culture by infusing sort of new perspectives and new skills.
And that's a great segue to this slide here, Grant. You couldn't have teed it up any better. All right, so we want to talk about sales culture a little bit as you're bringing in salespeople and other members of the team. What is having a sales culture? What does that mean to you? What does that mean? Well, it so happens I have a definition to show you. Okay, all right. So we're not going to read everything here, but I bolded a few words here. Mindset, attitude, and behaviors. It's not really what you say, it's what you do, and what you display in front of people, basically, and having a sales culture, we're really good at a lot of things at Floor Coverings. We take care of customers like we're the best in class on a lot of things, but I think one of the opportunities that we have is, to develop our sales culture a little bit more, and really be, sales animals out there. And and that's really done through our, what we do and our attitudes. And I think that's an opportunity for a lot of us, especially corporate and throughout the network as well. All right, so how do we create a sales culture? I mean, as part of our culture, what are some of the key elements you think of having a sales culture? Anybody want to chime in on this?
Setting goals.
Setting goals. Part of what we're going to talk about today, like, is the infrastructure. Setting goals is part of the business planning, which is the main crux of our call today. Also, celebrating wins. Salesperson lands a job, make a big deal about that, especially early on. have a parade in your office or something, and then, keeping score, being competitive, those are the best traits of our, successful DAs. They're super competitive and they keep score and they want to win, and, sales practice, on ride along, et cetera, a ride along doesn't have to be an appointment. A ride along could be, as Isaac and Patrick are doing, showing the install piece of it, visiting a realtor's office, a BNI meeting, a one-to-one in your BNI group, a ride along could be anything like that, showing them all the aspects of the job. It doesn't have to focus on just running appointments, like with customers, showing them how to build that connect bucket and build those relationships. All that stuff is ride along, and it takes practice, and most of all, you got to make it fun. Okay. So some of these other aspects we're going to be talking about later. Today, we're dealing with the infrastructure, specifically the DA business plan. Okay. And we're going to get into that here shortly. Also, the next call, which Grant and I are hosting as well, is going to be on GSNRs, which kind of, plays into the business planning. It's kind of one activity really when you think about it. And then, the ride-alongs and the coaching. So ride-alongs, they're taking place, early on, they have to do like 50 ride-alongs in their first, as part of the training. But, ride-alongs should be, a constant thing. Like many of us, will use ride-alongs when their DA hasn't landed a job in 4 appointments, or if something's going south, it's got to be in the good times and the bad. Like your DA should not be apprehensive because you're jumping in the van with your DA. It should be something that's normal, who's doing ride-alongs now? I mean, everyone's DA is pretty new, so you're doing ride-alongs. I don't want to put you on the spot here, Deb, but like with your 4 DAs, like you ride along pretty consistently with all of them, even the experienced ones? Did we lose Deb?
She's on mute, but
She's on mute.
yeah.
All right. We'll let her slide here, but it's not just something you do in the beginning, and practice. With your sports background, Grant, you want to talk about practice and game planning and things like that?
Well, it's just,
Yeah.
sort of Captain Obvious thinking, right? But
Yeah.
the reality of it is it's a function of your time and your bandwidth. And you have the benefit of having the repetitions as you've grown your business, and you've had to play every role and you've had to put on every hat, and you continue to have to do that. But with your DA, there's so much learning going on, as you're well aware. There's so many different elements that they're trying to get right. You have to assume all the time that they are trying to do it all well, and they're trying to optimize everything that they're learning. But truth be told, they need more reps than just the appointments that you go on. So it's probably a very good thing to, just constantly be giving them sort of role play scenarios, or almost mock appointments, even if it's in your office, or give them some homework over the weekend to, come back with a proposal and then take some time and shred it. Tell them to go measure a part of their house or something, because all it does is just get them more confidence when they actually go on real appointments. So it's a mental note, as leaders, to constantly be investing in their repetitions. And it's one of the first things that falls away because of busyness, right? But it's one of the most important things for effectiveness on behalf of your new DAs, to optimize their opportunities. The more confidence, as you all know, that you walk into a house with, your ability to be accurate with measuring, your ability to manage the tablet, your ability to know the customer story and make it personal. There's no substitute for just repping that all the time. And sometimes the best practice you can get is when there's no pressure, right? When there's not pressure of a close on the other end, they have the ability to make some mistakes and learn from them. So, make it a point to constantly be doing sort of what we'll call no pressure practice, which is, the expectations are there, but it's the opportunity to make corrections without, a deal hanging in the balance, let's say. Make sense?
All right, so I'm going to share a video with you here real quick. gonna take some Zoom gymnastics here. Hopefully I can pull it off.
This is the kind of thing that Joe brags about his IT prowess in the office, and it's sad, honestly.
I know.
You can do it, Joe.
I'm struggling right now. I can't find the.
Have you practiced?
See? We
I
did this
did
morning, to
practice
be
this,
honest,
but it's not-
Christina. We actually did practice this morning.
But it's not working
Greg,
out.
go
here.
over there and click the button for him.
Yeah, I know. It's it.
Where is it,
Jim,
man?
Jim, can you please put a Batman call out to your IT based DA, and we can get him to come in and save Joe?
I don't see the screen that I can share. Hang on a second.
Grant, I usually, when him and I have like, one-to-ones, I'm the one to have to point out things for him. So
I found it.
it's,
Okay.
this doesn't surprise me any what he's going through.
Good. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear the sound here.
Hiring, firing, and no one just wants to do the fucking job, Gary. Is it me that
Yes.
I'm not giving the job properly?
It's 100% you. Even the way that you're casting judgment on your employees already makes me know that you're not a good leader.
I'm trying to be one, but
I believe you, but the answer is it's you. The number one mistake is we expect our employees to work hard, but the problem is they don't own the business. You can't ask an employee to work as hard as you, or you create a fake expectation versus how much you compensate them. You work for them, they don't work for you. And so the biggest mistake people make and why they can't build scalable businesses is they have selfish expectations of their employees.
try hiring.
All right. I thought that was an interesting take. Gary V there. Anybody want to weigh in on that?
Well, I think we talked about culture a little bit, trying to set a culture of success that goes all the way around. I mean, having a lot of sales or produce margin, that's great and all, but if your team isn't winning, then they're not going to feel that at all. They're not, of course, you want to make money as a business owner, but if they're not feeling like they're succeeding in life, then you're going to have that constant churn.
Well said.
I think also just to add my 2 cents is if that, setting expectations, kind of like what he said, setting the, instead of, this is what I expect versus, setting those, what are the guidelines and the rules and the goals and stuff like that. That's and following up and instead of just saying, oh, well, I expect you to do this and not having a plan to do it is a plan to fail.
Yep.
That's a good point. To piggyback off what you were saying and what everybody else has said so far, I think it's setting realistic expectations, right? So that's something I had to adjust to a long time ago, and I still have to work on every day is understanding I can't hold people to my expectations for myself. So finding something, if you're shooting for a certain point, don't go back below your minimum of where you need to be at, but set a realistic expectation for your team member who's not an owner or who may not be in the leadership position that you're in. That's realistic. That's a stretch, but it's not unrealistic at all for them, and it's not setting the bar too low either. So that's something I always have to work on constantly.
That's a great
Guys,
point.
There's a thing that I like to point out, and it's important, especially for this topic about hiring DAs, and that is you guys as the owners and being really mindful of this is that when you add a DA or your fourth, in some in Deb's case, inherently when that DA walks in the door day one, they're a subordinate, right? In essence, you have a vertical hierarchy. It's unavoidable. It's just it's an organic truth that when they come into your operation, that's where they're going to fall. The objective and the opportunity as you build culture, as you empower your DA, as you invest in your DA, as you set expectations for your DA, as you just said, Isaac, but those expectations are no different than the ones that you're going to expect for yourself, right? So you're leading by example. And the more that you do this, the objective is to level out the culture, right? You want to have a horizontal, culture as best you can, so that your DA, your project manager, your office managers are all understanding the expectations that they should have for themselves, that it's not always being driven as a directive top down, right? That's just, that they're taking ownership of their own, And now basically each person in your operational culture is being self-accountable, self-aware, and they're wanting to drive the ultimate success of the business. So, you want to create a partner mindset. They're not your partner economically or from an equity perspective, but you'd like them to think that their role and their contributions to the organization are every bit as vital as yours every single day. And if that discussion is happening, if that investment in the culture is happening, then this is where the proverbial all boats rise with the tide behavior can take place, right? This is heavy here. So, it's just a visual, but it's something to be mindful of. And it's certainly, imagine when you get one DA and they stay loyal and things go well and they start to move here, the minute you're going to add your second, they're going to come in here again, right? So then it's going to have to be the opportunity to bring that along over the course of time as well. So just something to always be thinking about as you're, having your communication and fostering empowerment and accountability for your staff.
All right. So let's talk about the DA plan, which is our subject today. So why does the DA need a business plan? And why is it important, especially in the beginning? Like we talked about the sales culture and all this other stuff. Like, why is the plan so important?
Well, they need a goal. They need to know what their expectations are, and they need to know what they're driving towards.
Exactly. It helps you assess what's good, what's bad, like what the goals are, et cetera. And what do I mean by this when I say it connects their why to your business?
I think it aligns their personal values to your company values. If you know why they want to meet a specific goal, and then you can measure that out and back that out from 12 months and say, okay, well, if you want to sell 600,000 at month 6, we should be around 300,000. And if we're not there, we can measure that along the way and help and understand what that 600,000 means to them. That's 600,000 in sales, great, but why is that important?
Exactly right. You want to find out why they want 600,000, why they want to make 60 grand. Really get those personal reasons on what's motivating them. And also it establishes a gap, where they are now, where they want to go. And to your point, Patrick, don't let the how get in the way of why, and we'll figure out how to get there once we know, why you want to go, where you want to go. All right. So we talked about the gap, establishing the gap here, just to give you a visual, where they are, where they want to get to, and then, what the next best step is. Because, not everyone's Evel Knievel in the rocket car where you can just fly over the gap there. Okay. So you see Evel's face there. He actually looks a little bit afraid, and he's a brave dude, man. I mean, all right. So without a plan, you did. They're going to be focused on the tactical rather than the why. And how does it motivate people, but the why does. That's a key part of it there. Without a plan, maybe they feel like they're doing great or feel like they're doing bad, but we don't really know because there's no goal, as Deb pointed out earlier, and there's no gap. It's hard to gap them on where they want to go without the plan. Okay, so with goal setting, I think you kind of touched on this, Isaac, and I find a way to work this slide in on every presentation I do, because I just love this visual here, because I never knew the brisket was like right above the leg there. I thought that was would have been more centered, but one bite at a time, as they say, on the goal setting. You kind of alluded to this, Isaac, making it realistic and things like that. I mean, so important with your DA. Little milestone wins, lead to bigger wins. All right, so how do we create this plan with our DA? All right. Well, it starts with your plan. Okay, so their hopes and dreams have to work for you as the owner. Okay, so going into this planning session with your DA, you kind of have an idea of what they need to generate for it to work for you, like for it to be viable for your business, okay? So, you've got to know that, what the minimum standard is, what the break even is with your DA, what they need to do, like just to pay for themselves in a sense, okay? And then, how can your plan differ from their plan? What's the difference in mindset, do you think, between a salesperson and a business owner when it comes to like goals and their plan and things like that? Anybody want to weigh in there?
This is a big one.
Should be a.
Yeah.
I like my DA's plan to be realistic but motivating. Whereas sometimes my sales plan, I gotta plan a little bit for maybe a little bit more conservatively to manage the rest of the expenses in the business, like variable expenses like marketing. So, but I like to keep then a vision plan as well. So there's my base plan, there's their kind of vision plan, which is probably their plan, and then that's the biggest difference I see.
Yeah, so like your kind of thought process and mindset is around revenue from the DA, right? Well, your DA is thinking about what's in it for them. Their plan is going to be big. This is the main difference here. It's a fundamental on the way they see it. A salesperson is going to see it. Their plan is based around what they make. How much am I going to make on this plan? So, when you're talking to your DA and work through this process, you want to speak the salesperson's language, in terms of, how much do you want to make? Well, let me show you how to get there, type thing, so like they're motivated by their personal income, okay? And creating ownership in the plan is huge. What are some ways that you create ownership with your salespeople in the plan?
Well, I try to
Apologize.
connect, like, sort of what you do for a customer when you, like, what's in it for them.
Awesome.
It kind of like a features and benefits, right? You definitely coordinate the benefit, connect that, what motivates the DA, and have it, because they're not going to have the same motivation as we do as owners, as you've said. So you kind of find a way to connect that so that they see the benefit to them of performing or doing the actions that you want them to do.
Right, and it's kind of like their idea, so to speak. You kind of
Yeah.
lead them there.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. You kind of summed up all four of these because when you connect it to them, you're going to get the buy-in, and then that's where the accountability comes in. Like you're just holding them accountable to their plan. This is your why. I'm just trying to get you here. And it's a shared conversation. Okay. Let's talk about the conversation a little bit here, and more gymnastics coming up here. Hang on a second. Oh, all right. Don't worry, I'll get there, Christina. Have a little faith, would you?
This just reinforces practice. We went through all this morning. We talked it through. We mapped out a good plan of
I was
presentation.
Yeah.
I'm
We-
about
we-
to take a
Grant,
nap.
you didn't have Jeopardy music queued up or anything?
Yeah,
Yeah.
clearly
It
we
have to
needed
be
to
on
have another
repeat.
practice session.
Yeah.
Yeah, we needed to do more than one.
Yeah,
I need
Christina,
something. I do need
yeah.
some music. You're right. Who
he,
said
he,
that?
he is a Penn State grad too, so you got to give him a break.
I'm gonna take that feedback. All right, so I'm not gonna read this whole conversation over here, but this is I'm gonna send you guys this. This is kind of like a a guideline, if you will, of a typical conversation where you're asking, the owners, well, how much do you want to make this year? Okay. And then like the DA is gonna have a number in mind. Okay. Oh, really? What makes you say that? No, I'm just kidding. No. We're not doing the walk of life with them yet, but you want to find out why they want to make that much, a personal why. You know, I want to move out of my mom's basement. I want to buy a car. I want whatever it is. You want to find out like why they want to make that money, and then the rest of the conversation is basically showing them how they get there. You know, I think it would be, $500,000 like generate the 50K in income, and how many proposals per month that is, and per week and things like that. So you kind of help them break it down, and understand how it all works. Because one of the key components on this is, they have to understand how they get paid in our mystical FCI Power BI system, because inherently, and Deb, like, correct me if I'm wrong here, but like inherently, salespeople think the system is designed to screw them over. I mean, is that a fact or not? Deb?
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
this is how
because,
they think.
yeah, the owners, well, just public in general, they figure any business owner is just loaded. They're so rich,
Yeah, so they have to understand like how to navigate our system, and in the planning session, that's kind of like, we're going to get into that with the planning tool, but like, they have to understand how it all works, how job size and close rate and all of our KPIs, how it all works and plays together, and how it generates money for them. So in the planning session itself, outside of the conversation, prior to the conversation, there's some prep involved. Your DA's got to pretty much know what they want to make, and like, as an owner, you have to know what you need them to make in order for this thing to work. Okay, and hopefully what you're finding most of the time is your DAs, you got to pull them back a little bit. The hopes and dreams are a little on the high end of what's real, and hopefully it's more than where you need them to be. Also, we kind of talked about this, how the comp plan works, and how to, interpret the KPIs leading to more income, basically. And then, we upload it into Salesforce, and it's kind of used as a reference with the GSNRs. Like, the GSNRs is kind of an extension of the business plan in a sense, because you're more or less holding them accountable to that plan and coming up with, by setting goals and solving problems that are going to get them there. Okay, so let's get into the GSNR a little bit here. So, how am I doing on time, Grant?
Right. I think we're right on schedule here.
All
I
right.
think we're doing well.
Okay, so I've got a sample business plan here. Okay, and I'm going to send all this to you after the call here. But we have all these tabs down here. The first one is introspection. Okay, it's kind of like when you're doing your plan, like you have your VTOs, you have your 1 year VTO, 3 year, 10 year, and all that. Well, so does your DA. Your DA's got plans, hopes, and dreams as well. Okay, so that's where I would start the conversation with them. How much do you want to make? Why do you want to make it? Well, you want these VTOs like to be personal, and not numeric in a sense. Yes, I want to make, but why do you want to make 6 figures? Well, maybe you're saving for a house. Maybe, you want to buy your mom a house, or you want to move out of her basement, or something like that. Whatever is driving them to make money, you want to capture that as much as you can on a very, very personal level. Okay. Especially in year 1, and then in year 3, might be a little bit different. Okay. So now the next phase is you're going to show them how to get there. Okay. Well, now that we know like where you want to go, and, as your mentor, and, I'm going to show you how to get there. Okay. That's where the example comes in here. It's where the KPIs all kind of work. Okay. So many of you like just hired a DA, so I kind of made our example for like a new DA who's basically going to start selling in July, like next month. Okay. So, under this, you're going to fill in all the blue lines here. There's 3 of them, 1, 2 and 3 here. It's basically proposals per week, close rate and job size, you're gonna play with these numbers and show them how it impacts everything, okay?
Sorry, Joe, can you make it a little bit bigger?
Sure.
Thank you.
All right, so close rate, for example, maybe in their first month, they're not gonna be as skilled, as they need to be. And, so you kind of ramp that up a little bit, for them, and same with job size, okay? And then proposals per week, we kind of have them starting out slow and then tapering off in the holiday, just kind of get something out there, so you can work with it. Like under this scenario here, this DA is gonna sell $333,000 in 6 months, and basically that's about 33 grand they're gonna make in the next 6 months, okay? So that's like, 66 or 67,000 annually, okay? And like you can kind of, and then so down here, building this expectation early is critical on the Connect proposals. Like your DA's gotta, understand that you're not gonna spoon feed them these 8 proposals a week, okay? They gotta go get most of them. Maybe digital, it is what it is. And, sometimes it'll be 3, sometimes it'll be 5. And, it's unpredictable and unreliable. So you want them building and developing like their Connect bucket. So like in July, you just want to see 1 proposal from Connect in this example. Okay. In August, you want to see 3. And so on and so on. And these numbers could be higher. Now, generally, it takes a while to get the rhythm going and relationships built on the Connect. So it's kind of a slow to start, but when you look at our successful DAs, I was in Cleveland recently, working with DAs out there. Was anyone on this call in Cleveland? You were there, Christina. So with the DAs, all they talk about is Connect bucket, and they're at like 40 or 50% of their proposals are coming out of Connect at this point. And they're running PPA appointments, but they're, not a real factor in what they do, because most of what they do is building relationships and driving that Connect bucket, because all the KPIs are way better in that area. Okay, so establishing.
Let me just add something there too, Joe, is on these bottom ones, these are sort of the other metrics, feel free to add some additional measurables if you see fit, because I view that there's a couple other down here that could easily be integrated into the plan because they all drive up. But one would be, because you think about, local brand, right? We started this whole discussion off about what's a local brand. Well, a couple ways that you can add some scenarios is measure reviews, right? So you're going to be expecting them to close deals. You're going to expect them to, perform and produce. Hold them accountable to get reviews as well, right? Because those are very important to be utilized for growth. They're very important for utilizing your, Connect bucket leads. So, put a measurable in there for reviews. Second to that is if the DA is going to be doing anything around social media at all, or door hangers, or anything localized that's going to be sort of building brand, just, again, put some additional measurables in there for things that you want them to be held accountable for. Have this discussion early, make a measurable out of it. So it's going to be very easy to quantify when you guys sit down and do GSNRs on a weekly basis. It's just, one of the other elements that you're going to be inquiring as to, are they being self-motivated? Are they taking accountability? And are they meeting the expectation for all these other elements as well, which all contribute ultimately to the why they have and the how they want to achieve, what they're trying to generate economically. So just don't feel hamstrung by this plan on the bottom end here. The other ones are pretty rigid and pretty self-explanatory. But if there are elements to your business and endeavors that you want them to take ownership of, don't feel hamstrung that you can't add them to the bottom.
Yeah, and like with the reviews, like a good way to look at it is on a percentage of what jobs are produced for them. So like if they're landing 4 jobs in July, they'll be produced in August, and you want to see 2 reviews in August. So that's one way to keep it realistic. That was a great point, Grant. I didn't even think about reviews, but yeah, all that stuff that you need instill that in them early. They won't know any better that they're not supposed to hang signs, or ask for reviews. They don't know that it's like so hard, right? It's just part of what they do, so this is your chance to really build that in early on. This is like your opportunity right here. And then, because all this stuff is necessary for them to get here. You want to be here, well, all this stuff matters because this is how you do it in our world. Okay. So anybody have any questions on any of this? So your starting point is here, what they want to make, but more importantly, why they want to make it. And then you show them how here, okay? And one way to illustrate that is, okay, so we have this income calculator here. Okay, so I took the time period of the business plan, the 1st of July through the end of the year, okay? And if you look at the example, there's 163 proposals in this time frame, 30% close rate and job size of 6734. Okay, so I just plug those numbers in. Okay, 6734. All right, and with the time frame, so that's basically going to give them 6.2 proposals a week with a revenue per proposal of $2,000. So in the current state here, they're making their $33,000. With everything staying the same throughout the year. Here's where you can play the fun game of what if. Like what if you added one proposal a week to what you're planning? Just one a week, okay? Well, on the business plan, that's going to add another $5,000 in income for you. Annually, that's going to add $10,000 just by going from 6.2 to 7.2. One more a week, okay? But, also, what if you added $500 to your job size, okay? From 67 to 72, well, that's going to add, 2,400 in the 6-month period and 4,800 annually. Okay, just increasing your job, selling rugs or asking for scope, all those things. Here's what it means to them, another $5,000 a year. What if you pick up a couple of points on your close rate? Okay, that's going to add another $4,000 right there annually, like 2,000 in the 6-month period. Okay, so you kind of show them how it all. So when you're prioritizing in this case, I'm going to ask the obvious question, like what's the most important thing they can be working on in this scenario here? That was a question, by the way.
Proposals per week.
Yeah. And then if they're getting their proposals like from Connect, well, guess what? The job size and close rate are going to go up because the KPIs are way better on those, and show them. I'm going to see if I can pull this up here real quick. I've got a slide that I like to show. Of course, I won't be able to find it now, Grant.
It's part we didn't practice this morning. So,
Yeah.
reps is everything.
He's off the rails. He's off the script.
He's going rogue on us now.
Oh, I got it. All right, here it is.
Woo.
All right, so when you look at the KPIs, I just want to make the point on Connect here real quick. So like the 3 R's, these 2 buckets are pretty much the Connect bucket right here. Our network average close rate, 61%, 51% here. The top tier, like the top 25% of our franchises are even higher, okay? Job size even higher. Like the network average on job size in Connect is $8,000. And we look at revenue per proposal, job size and close rate. Like if you're adding your proposals like from these areas, well, look what happens. Everything goes up. Okay, so oh no. Okay, all right, I'm back. All right. So show them how it all works and why Connect is so valuable. Like because your proposals are worth $8,000 a proposal in Connect. Okay, and they're worth $2,000 outside of it. So if you're gonna add one more, add it from there, And, so you kind of show them like the impact on everything and like if they do all three of these things, okay, here's what that looks like, Now they're making 86,000 a year as opposed to 65, which is 21,000 more than our plan is, okay? So when you're working through this, you're showing them how they make money at floor coverage is what you're showing them, okay? How it all works and how they can, maximize their income in our system. All right. Everybody on board with that?
The other thing to think about too is these are the measurables, and this is a great tool to show a DA sort of, the impact of each one singularly versus, and then cumulatively as well. But this is where through your leadership of them, as you're sitting down and you're challenging them in terms of what they want to achieve and why, and then you can show them, what levers to turn here to impact their own results. Then, you peel back one more layer, if you will, of the onion and say, well, then what things can we be doing that are going to impact proposals per week? What things can we be doing that are going to impact job size? Like, Joe said, scope, scale inside the house. What things are we going to do to increase close rate? Well, setup calls, right? Follow up, listening inside the customer stories. I mean, give them tactical and tangible connections because they'll get this part, right? They're going to see this chart if you go through with it, and they're going to identify very quickly how they can juice up their own success. But then if you show them the levers behind that, like follow-up and setup calls and how that can dramatically and directly increase your close rate growth, then make those connections for them and then hold them accountable to it. And say, let's create another measurable if we're going to, in terms of, the number of follow-up, efforts that you make for any deal that's in our need to close funnel on a weekly basis, right? So, just continue to tactically connect that you may find the connective tissue between these results-oriented measurables. And then it's so much easier to sit down and hold them accountable to this and help them see how they can impact their own success.
Yeah. So like when we talk about GSNRs next week, and those are things in the goal setting review, like, a weekly objective, shouldn't be, I want to get my close rate to 32%. Like Grant said, like you want to give them things they can do that's going to impact that close rate, the actions and behaviors, like we talked about on the sales culture. It's all about, what you do. And they have control of doing a setup call. They have control of following up. They can choose not to do it, but it's not like it's a mystical thing. It's, when we were in Cleveland, with that DA group, all the high-powered DAs were there. There's a bunch of them in Cleveland, and I was expecting some kind of revolutionary thing that they're doing. Slicing bread a different way or something. Or all they talked about was setup calls, measuring and estimating, warm up, fundamental stuff that they are passionate about. Like they always do a setup call, these DAs. Come hell or high water, they're gonna find it. If they have to send out, 10 texts and 50 phone calls, they're gonna get a hold of that customer and do a proper setup call before they run the appointment. Because they understand, it's imperative, like, it's gonna help their close rate, it's gonna help land jobs, and the connect piece, they allocate time, spend a lot of time doing that. They shut their calendar down so they can do it, 1 day a week in most cases. And that's all they do is networking activities. So we'll get into that next time, but this kind of shows them how to navigate our system and how to make money, and more importantly, how to make money in what we do, in the way our company works. Okay. So then, this example was for you all, but there's a blank one in here too that you're going to work through with your DA. Okay. And then there's a Salesforce upload here, which is going to tie to the DA plan basically, and it's going to allow you to upload it into the system so you can track it. And I don't know if you've seen this or not, but Here I go off the reservation again, Grant. All right, so there's a DA versus plan report in Power BI. See if anyone's got a plan in here. All right, so
Joe, does it roll up into our plan or it's separate?
it's separate, okay? So
Yeah.
here's a couple of, the plans aren't loaded for this time period. Let me see if I got one that's, what was that report? You gotta find your DA. I'm trying to find one that's loaded here. I'm not sure why it's not showing up, but here again, I didn't practice it. I think I got the wrong report up here, but their plan's gonna populate here. And like your branch plan, it's gonna have their performance to plan, but to last year and all that. So all those, you know, all those metrics are gonna show up once you upload it. You know, and this will populate based on what you have in the plan, and then you just upload it in the Power BI and it'll be up and running, okay? So I'll send all this to you, and then I'll even have a link on how to upload it from fcit.com. There's like a little video that shows how to upload the plan. So many of you have DAs in a month or two in. Has anyone done the planning session with your DA yet?
Yeah.
I'll
Okay.
take that as a hard no. It's never too soon to start.
We're waiting on this, Joe.
Oh, okay. Okay, Christina, sorry about that.
I wanna, go off script.
Yeah, so I'll send this out to you, but, part of the prep is, ask your DA, like that first tab, the introspection tab on the DA, on the plan, have them have that filled out, like, prior to your planning meeting. That's their prep. Like your prep's to go in, look at your break even, what you need what you need that DA to produce for you, and you kind of guide the conversation accordingly if you know where you need them to be. You know what I'm saying? And most of the time, they're going to want to do $1 million in the first 6 months. Okay, so you have to your point, Isaac, make it real. You have to keep it real with them. You know what I'm saying? Like show them like, hey, look, I know you want to run 20 appointments a week, but here's our branch stats here, and we're running 8 as a branch. We're gonna be splitting that up. So we gotta, reel them back in if you need to, and hopefully that's what you have to do is reel them in and not push them forward. You know what I'm saying?
And be mindful as you're doing your thinking prep, and you're going to sit down and kind of go through this the first time. Think about the 3 areas that your DA is going to impact your overall organization, and put questions for them so you can gain feedback and intel, and then create measurables, achievement and goals of the economics, right? The revenues and the income, that's one for sure. How are they going to impact your corporate culture? Okay. I mean, what are you going to want them to infuse into the growth of your culture? Attitude, energy, mindset, just some of those intrinsic things that aren't so tangible. And then the third one is, how do you want your new DA to impact and elevate your local brand? Okay. I mean, that's out and about in the community. That's creating brand awareness. That's, as you described it earlier, it's, how do you want your DA to be an extension of yourself? And thank goodness they are, because you've got a whole nother set of arms and legs that can be out there building a network that says, hey, do you got a floor guy? Well, they've created a bunch more people now that they can say yes. So how do they affect your brand in your local brand? How do they affect your culture? And then obviously, how do they impact your business, from a raw performance perspective? Those are all important elements that your DA should be impacting and should be held accountable for in different measurables. So just, that's sort of, as the leader, those are the 3 areas that you want to continue to be holding them accountable for all the way through.
And then on the next call, which I think is in 2 weeks or something, we're gonna go over the GSNR, but I think we'll start off the call with like, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, you'll have these conversations, these planning sessions with your DA. We can talk about how that went, like, and get some feedback from you, on how those conversations went.
Yeah.
So hopefully, is it fair to say that everyone's gonna have this DA planning session prior to the next call? You think that'll happen? All right.
Great.
All right. Like how I
Yeah.
did that?
Jim's
Christina?
honest. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's good.
and I am recording this too, just so you know.
Well, because
Response.
two reasons. One, he's on vacation, celebrating his honeymoon for the next 2 weeks, and then I'm on vacation, so that's why.
Okay, well, we'll let you off the hook for that. Okay.
Give your DA a vacation for their honeymoon?
Yeah, what the hell?
I know.
Christina, don't
That's the
get me
last
started on you, okay? I can give them your backstory if you want, but I won't, all right?
All
Go
right,
for
thanks.
it.
All right, you all have a great holiday weekend here, man. And thanks for coming in. And, we'll get back at it here in a couple of weeks. I look forward to our next one.
Thank you both.
Thanks all.
Happy 4th,
Nice meeting
everybody.
Have a
you.
safe holiday with
Yep.
your families. Be safe.
Happy 4th.
I s-
Take care.
Stay on, Grant, if you can.
Yep.